Hello. So it's been 1 week of learning OCaml. I streamed every day for about an hour and a half each day. And so I wanted to recap on my thoughts so far. So I've written down this little document here. So I planned to do 30 days of learning OCaml. And I'm not sure if this is too little um, to get an impression of the language, and I'm unsure if I'll actually continue to 30 days because in the last day or so, it's been a little bit challenging. So I'm not sure whether I want to push through and persist, um, or if I want to just work on something else that I'm more interested in. Because to be honest, I haven't found it super interesting so far, but I'll get into that in a second. So to start with, why did I even start learning OCaml in the first place? Um, and I don't have super strong reasons. It sort of all boils down to curiosity and a bit of, I suppose, social pressure in a way. So my first kind of exposure to OCaml was through TJ DeVries and his channel when he was streaming. And obviously I'm a fan of TJ and what he does and stuff, and so um, if he finds it interesting, I respect his opinion on things like that. So I thought I should give it a crack, combining that with the more technical reason, which is that Rust, which I personally, it's my favorite language. Rust borrows concepts from OCaml and a lot of other languages like Swift and a whole bunch of others. And when I was observing TJ learning OCaml initially, it seemed like OCaml was had a lot of similarities. And so I thought that maybe the jump from Rust to OCaml would be relatively smooth. And I can report it was not smooth at all. Um, but it wasn't too bad either. And another reason is because Jane Street uses OCaml, and I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of curious about working there. I know they're a very top tier company, and probably um, if I applied to them now, I would have to. It would have to be very targeted. I don't think they're just gonna pick me up for just extra engineering capacity. I think there would have to be a problem that I know well that I could solve for them, and I don't think that comes around very often. So I'd probably have to just study up, build up my skills. That's something more attractive before I even apply there. Anyway, back to OCaml itself. What did I actually like about OCaml? Uh, the type inference is actually good. Like in Rust, a good amount of the time you have to explicitly declare the types because otherwise you'll get compiler errors or whatever. Or maybe something gets picked up as a certain type, or the type is ambiguous. Whereas OCaml seems to be able to handle the ambiguity quite well, except for in a few niche cases that I bumped into. The compile times are fast. I would say it's comparable to Golang. That's always nice. To be honest, I personally don't super care about the compile times in Rust. I don't find them horrible, but then again, I haven't worked on something that is enormous and uses lots of like generics or macros. I've worked on network services, and they generally weren't too complicated. Um, I'm trying to think of this. If there's a third thing I liked, um, some of the libraries were cool. Like for example, I briefly looked at Mirage OS yesterday, which is interesting and it's kind of worth looking into if you're sort of interested in, I guess, bleeding edge cloud deployment kind of things, which I am a little bit interested in. Mirage OS allows you to put an OCaml program into what's called a unikernel, and that runs on a hypervisor directly. It's pretty cool, but whatever. Might not be everyone's fancy, and I'll probably never use it myself. But then the things that I didn't like, um, the tooling is good. Uh, I had some trouble with a Vim plugin overriding my key maps, and I had to actually go and do a GitHub search for code for the actual key map command and dig through plugins and figure out that there's like a Vim option that I have to set so that those key maps don't get applied. And that took me the whole week, because it was frustrating and I just didn't push through it. But at the end of the week, I managed to find that option and fix my key bindings, so that was fine. I think the LSP was okay actually, so I don't know why I put LSP there. One of the things I didn't like about Dune, and maybe in conjunction with OPAM, was the project setup is okay. Adding dependencies to a project, I found, was kind of bad. Like, you have to install the dependency with OPAM into the appropriate OPAM switch, and I didn't use switches at all, so I just installed with OPAM, and then I would have to add that dependency to the Dune file in a directory, and also in the Dune project file somewhere. Manually, I had to do that. I couldn't find, or I'm not aware of any commands that actually do that automatically, but I feel like that should be there. The second thing was with Dune, it was mostly fine. Building, sometimes when you do build watch, it would get stuck because the build folder would have to be cleaned. So that was kind of annoying. But that happens in Rust too. And then, oh, when you are in that watch mode, it has a lock that just persists while you're in watch mode. So nothing else can run Dune commands while you're in watch mode. So you have to cancel it and then run your other thing and then run it again. Whereas the locks, for example, in Rust, when it's compiling, it's held only for as long as it's needed, and then no longer. So that would be nice. Another thing with Dune was running binaries. So you do Dune exec and then just the file path, but you put .exe, and if there is a .ml file at that location, it will compile and execute that module, which is convenient in a way, but I think I'd much prefer it if, for example, if I do Dune exec, I would want it to, by default, run anything that's called main.ml, just by default. bin/main.ml. If there's no arguments passed to Dune exec, it should run that. That seems sensible to me. And then, yeah, I feel like that should more closely match Cargo, how Cargo does Cargo run. And then you can specify the binary, which binary. And so inside that binary folder, you know, Maybe that's more opinionated than what the OCaml project wants to be, but that's what I think. Compiler error messages. This was a source of anger for me. There was many times where I just got syntax errors, and there was just no information as to why it was a syntax error. So, and then I'm left in this situation where I don't know why it's a syntax error, and I can't Google why it's a syntax error because I don't even know what the thing is called, what that particular section of syntax is named. So I'm left in this situation where I effectively can't validate or learn with the tools that are provided by OCaml. And in those situations, I just had to paste the error messages into an LLM to explain what's going on there, because it has that corpus of knowledge baked into itself. It's consumed all the OCaml information out there. Pages that I don't know. And that comes on to this second point, learning resource discoverability. So the first couple of things that I did, oops, what have I done? The first couple of things that I did was I did the tour of OCaml, and then I did your first program in OCaml. And then after that, there wasn't a whole lot. There was the exercises ranked by difficulty. They were kind of like really, really small leak code challenges. I was looking for something a bit more of a reference that I can use while writing OCaml to figure out how to use most of the primitives in the standard library, like lists, sequences, strings, and whatnot. Some of those things I could figure out using the LSP, but I would have liked to expand the possibilities that I have in the standard library by reading a reference. And I found that reference just yesterday, and it's just on ocaml.org. So I don't know. I feel like those pages where it's like, this is your first step into learning OCaml, they should probably end on a link or something to, by the way, here's our language manual and the standard library reference documents. I feel like that would probably help. That kind of thing. Also, I think Rustlings is pretty good. So maybe Camellings or like Baby Camel or something like that would be a nice addition to the OCaml learning ecosystem. Yeah, notes on the learning process itself, as in my learning process. I guess it's been a while since I've picked up a new language. One of the things that I probably need to do is be a little bit more patient. I got very stressed and frustrated because I just wasn't picking up things quickly enough, and I couldn't express what I wanted to express because I just didn't know how to do that. It's kind of like if you if you switch your keyboard layout and you're spending that time typing and you're like hitting 30 words per minute or something, you just cannot get the information out quick enough. It was kind of like that. And that's where I think if I was to try again, I really need that standard library reference to kind of have an idea of what I can do, how to express certain ideas that I know from other languages, but in OCaml. And then, yeah, so it's okay not to understand and be productive instantly. So I have to apply some compassion to myself for that and try to not be so frustrated and just to Rather than trying to get a result, I need to slow down and just drill things until they're boring and then move forward. I think that's what I have to do. My overall verdict, I don't want to say that I have a negative or a positive view of OCaml at the moment. I think I need more time to really become more comfortable and form an opinion. I would say, if anything, I lean towards positive, but there are lots of question marks around when I would realistically reach for OCaml rather than Rust. Um, that remains a little bit hazy for me. And if I'm going to attempt a new project, I think I need to first maybe do some of those exercises from the site, read the standard library, get comfortable with the standard library, try to do some code katas, or maybe easy LeetCode, for example, or maybe some exorcism challenges, and then maybe try again before starting a new project. And the project would hopefully be something that plays to OCaml's strengths rather than just trying to fit OCaml somewhere where it doesn't belong. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly what that is. So anyway, that is my recap for the last 7 days of learning. There's been more than 7, but the last few have just been just not good. But yeah, if I continue, then you'll see day 8 and beyond from this point. So if you want to subscribe to see that progress, if I do end up continuing, then I'll probably do another recap at day 14. So just every 7 days, I'll do another recap. See how we go. Anyway, thanks for watching, and see you later.